Hello everyone, so let's get started my study journey. So today I will study for 2 hours. Stay with me. So the important sites of Indus Valley Civilization. First is Harappa. Harappa location is Montgomery, Pakistan, on the bank of Ravi River, excavated by Dayaram Shahani. The year of excavation is 1921. Granary, works, quarter, vanity. Major findings are granary, worksman quarter, vanity case, furnace, piece of pottery with in the script, cubical limestone, sweat, copper bullock cart, coffin, burial cemetery, terracotta furnitures, evidences of horse at superficial level. Mohenjo-daro. Mohenjo-daro location is in Larkana district of Sindh on the bank of Indus River. It is excavated by R.D. Banerjee in 1925. Major findings are Great Bath, Granary, unicorn seals, bronze dancing girl statue, Pashupati seal, satellite, statue of beard priest, piece of woven cloth, etc. Surko Jendare location Baluchistan on Dast River, excavated by Orwell Stien in 1929. Trade point between Harappa and Babylon, flint blades, stone vessels, stone arrowheads, shield blades, pottery, horse remains, etc. Chanhudaro location is Mulan Sandha Sindh on the Indus River, excavated by N.G. Mojumdar in 1931. Bangles factory, ink pot, bread maker shop, the footprint of dog chasing a cat, cart with a seated driver. It is only city without a citadel. Rangpur, Kathiawad, Gujarat on the Mother River. M.S. Watts S.R. Rao has excavated this site in 1931-1957. Post Harappa site, rice husk, 6 types of pottery, etc. Amri, close to Balochistan on the bank of Indus River. It is excavated by N.G. Mojumdar in 1935. Antelope evidence, rhinoceros evidence, etc. Kot Diji is in Khairpur, Sindh, Pakistan on the Indus River. It is excavated by Fazol Ahmed Gure in 1935 and 1955. Figurine of ox, satellite seal, statite steel, terracotta braids, etc. Kalibangan is in Hemagod district of Rajasthan on the bank of Ghaggar River. Land Ghost in 1953. Granary plugged field, wooden drainage, evidence of earthquake, wooden plug, camel bone, fire altars, earthen bricks instead of baked one. Ropar is in Punjab on the river Sutlej. It is excavated by Y.D. Sharma in 1953. Five-fold sequence of culture, stone and mud house, evidence of dog burials along with human burials. Lothal is in Ahmedabad, Gujarat on Bhogava River near the Gulf of Cambay. It is excavated by R. Rao in 1955. Divided into 6 sections: bread making factory, rice husk, ivory, weight balance, dockyard, fire altars, terracotta figure of horse, etc. Alamgirpur is in Meerut, Uttar Pradesh on the Hindon River by Y.D. Sharma, 1958. Pottery, animal bones, plant fossils, copper tools, etc. Desalpur or Gunathili, Nakatra, Takuda in Gujarat, S.R. Rao and A. Ghosh in 1963. Copper terracotta seals, brown pottery. Surkotoda is in Gujarat by J.P. Joshi in 1964. Bones of horses, bread, stone covered beds, etc. Rakhigori is in Hisar, Haryana on the Drishabdavati River. Surabhanjan 1969. Large Harappan site, figure altars, citadel seal, terracotta wheel, etc. Balakot is in Balochistan, Pakistan, Arabian Sea. George F. Dales is the excavator 1973 to 1979. Early Harappan findings, bricks bread workshop. Vanwali, Band district of Haryana, RSBs 1974. Remains of street, drains, bread, barley, oval-shaped settlement, the only city with radial street, toy plug, the largest number of barley grains, etc. Dholavira is in Gujarat, in Run of Kutch by RSBs 1990. Only site to be divided into three parts: giant water reservoir, unique water harvesting system, dams, embankment, signboard with Indus script, etc. Lower town. The lower town, which was below the citadel, was larger size and was inhabited by the common people. The house in the lower cities of all in the settlement followed the grid system, road cut across one another and right angles. The city was divided into blocks. Streets were wide, the main street being about 10-meter wide. Residential buildings. Generally, houses were either one or two stories high, with rooms built around a courtyard. Houses were built of bricks and had thick, strong walls which were plastered and colored. The roofs of the house were flat. There were few windows but had number of doors which were probably made of wood. The kitchen had a fireplace and a large jars of pottery for storing grains or oil. Adjacent to it was the drain. Bathrooms were built on one side of the house and had drains which were connected with steel drain. The courtyard had an oven for making bread. It was probably the center of activities such as cooking and weaving, and particularly during hot and dry weather. There are no windows in the walls along the main road, which shows the Harappans had concern for privacy. Beside, the main entrance does not give a direct view of the interior or the courtyard. Some houses had their own wells, which meant water was always available inside the house. Some houses also have remains of staircase to reach a second story or the roof. The people of Harappa civilization were used burnt bricks, while in Egypt dried bricks were used, and in Mesopotamia the use of baked bricks was found. Economic condition in the Indus Valley Civilization. The economic condition of Harappa civilization was largely based on agriculture. The people of the civilization were also engaged in the trade and various other occupations. Agriculture. The Harappan village, mostly situated near the floodplains, helped in producing sufficient food grains not only to feed themselves but also to the town people. Activity of Harappan people also associated with agriculture are discussed as follows. Showing the Indus people showed seeds in the flood plants in the month of November, when the flood water receded, and reaped their harvest of wheat and barley in April before the advent of the next flood. Plug. The Harappan probably used wooden plowshare and stone sickles for harvesting the crops. Representation on seals and terracotta sculpture indicate that the bull was known to them and used for plugging. Agriculture archaeologists have also found evidence of plugged field at Kalibangan, Rajasthan, associated with early Harappan period. The field had two sets of furrows at right angles to each other, suggesting that two different crops were grown together. Crops. The Indus people were the earliest one to produce cotton. Findings of rice cultivation are relatively rare. However, emails show that the people of Lothal used rice. Main crops grown here are wheat, barley, mustard, peas, sesame, Latin, miles, and rice, etc. Barley has been discovered at Vanwali. Millets are found from sites in Gujarat. Irrigation. Most Harappan sites were located in semi-arid lands where irrigation were required for agriculture. Rubber bands and nulls enclosed by dams were used for storing water in Balochistan, but channel or canals seem to be absent. Traces of canals have been found in the Harappan site of Sortughai in Afghanistan, but not in Punjab or Sindh. It is possible that ancient canals dried up long ago. It is also likely that the water drawn from wells was used for irrigation. Besides, water reservoirs found in Dholavira may have been also used to store water for agriculture storage. Food grains were stored in granaries, the remains of which have been found in Mohenjo-daro, Harappa and Kalibangan. Domestication of animals. The Harappan times animals were domesticated on a large scale. Oxen, buffalo, goat, sheep, dog, cat, pig were domesticated. Camels and asses were also used for carriage purpose. The humped bulls were favored by the Harappan. Evidence of the horse comes from a doubtful terracotta figurine from Lothal. The remains of the horse are reported from Surkotoda, but the horse was not in regular use in Harappan times. Elephants, rhinoceros were also known to Harappan, and people in Gujarat domesticated elephants. Other animals known to the Harappan people are bull, camel, donkey, etc. Occupation. Harappan were engaged in a number of occupations. They were weavers, masons, potters, bread makers, boat makers, and seal makers. Bread making factories have been found at Chanudaro and Lothal. The importance of trade in the life of the Indus people is known by the presence of numerous seals, uniform scripts, regulated weights and measures. They carried on trade in stone, metal, steel, etc. They did not use metal money. All exchanges were carried on through barter. The Harappan were engaged in internal as well as external trade. For the internal trade, carts with solid wheel were used, while the external trade was carried out through ships. They practiced navigation on the coast of the Arabian Sea. The Harappan had commercial links with Rajasthan, Afghanistan, and Iran. Many seals of Harappan civilization have been discovered in the Mesopotamia. The Mesopotamian records from about 2350 BC refer to the trade relations with Meluha, which was the ancient name given to Indus region. The Mesopotamian texts speak of two intermediate trading status called Dilamam and Magan, which lay between Mesopotamia and Meluha. Dimam can be identified with barbarian on the Persian Gulf. The merchandise was shipped from Lothal and incoming goods were received here. Items of exports include pottery, grains, cotton goods, spice, stone breads, pearls, eye paints. The Harappan also carried on long distance trade for lapis lazuli, blue rock. Lapis may have contributed to the social prestige of the ruling class. Harappan had set up a trading colony in North Afghanistan and eventually facilitated trade with Central Asia. They imported gold from Karnataka and other precious stone from Gujarat, Iraq, Iran and Afghanistan. List of importance imports during Indus Valley Civilization. Gold, silver, copper, tin, chameleon, jade, amethyst, turquoise. Social conditions in Indus Valley Civilization. The Harappan society was egalitarian. All people were treated equally socially, politically and economically. The caste system does not found to be existed. However, the varying size of the houses indicates the prevalence of a kind of class system. Archaeologists have been also able to reconstruct dietary practices from the finds of charred grains and seeds. These are studied by archaeobotanists who are specialists in ancient plant remains. The people of Harappan civilization ate a wide range of plant and animal products including the fish, meat, wheat, barley, maize, millet, pulses, rice, fruits and other eatables. For these cattle, sheep, goat, buffalo and pig were domesticated by the Harappans. They knew how to weave cotton. This is known by the findings of clay spindles. Mostly clothes were of cotton, but some wool clothes were also used. The women wore a short skirt. The men wrapped a long piece of cloth around themselves. Cotton was probably grown at Mehergढ़ from about 7,000 years ago. Actual piece of cloth were found attached to the lid of a silver vase and some copper objects at Mohenjo-daro. Both men and women were fond of wearing ornaments. The men wore amulets and the women wore bracelets and neck pieces. These were made of braids of shell for the common people and the gold and silver for the rich people. For children, there were small clay carts resembling the modern Ekka's figure of animals, results made in form of birds, rattles of all kinds. Marbles were also popular among the children. For girls, there were also dolls too. The older people spent their time in gambling, dancing, and hunting. Burials. The Harappans used to bury their dead in pits. Some grave contains pottery ornaments, perhaps indicating a belief that these could be used in their afterlife. Jewelry has been found in burials of both men and women. In some instances, the dead were buried with copper mirrors. Art and crafts in the Indus Valley Civilization. The Harappan culture belonged to the Bronze Age. The Harappan people were well aware of various crafts, the weaving, spinning, and bread making. In order to identify centers of craft production, archaeologists usually look for a raw material such as stone, noodles, whole shells, copper ore, tools, unfinished objects, reject and waste material. Metallurgy and bronze craft. The Harappans used many tools made of stone, but they were very well acquainted with the manufacture and use of bronze. Bronze was made by mixing in it with copper. The discovery of bronze goods and suggests that all the metal works constituted this important group of artisans in Harappan society. They produce not only image and utensil but also various tools, weapons such as axe, saws, knives, and spears. A bronze statue of dancing girl found in Mohenjo-daro is the best specimen of that time. A number of figurines made of fire-baked earth and clay have been found from Harappan side. These were either used as toys or object of worship. Terracotta models of the plant have been found at sites in uh, Clochistan and Banwali. They represent birds, dogs, sheep, cattle, monkeys, men, women, but the terracotta piece represent unsophisticated artistic works. The terracotta figurines, the paintings of the pottery and the bronze images from the Harappan side. The Harappan used to weight and measures for trade and other transactions. Numerous articles used for weight have been found. They show in weighting mostly 16 or its multiple were used. The lower diminution of the weight were binary, while the higher demonstrations followed the decimal system. Weights were usually made up of charred stone, generally cubical with no marking. The Harappan also knew the art of measurement. Sticks inscribed with measures marks have been found. The Harappans were expert in the use of potter's wheel. The Harappan produced their own characteristic pottery which was glossy and shiny. The Harappan used red and black ware pottery. Most of them were made on reddish clay and lines, dots, geometrical designs, tree and leaf designs, and animal figures were painted in black on. The Harappans invented the art of writing, although the earliest specimen of Harappan script was not noticed in 1853, but it has not been deciphered so far. Most inscriptions are short and longest, containing about 26 signs. Most inscriptions are short, the longest about 26 lines. Unlike the Egyptians and Mesopotamians, the Harappan did not write long inscriptions. Most inscriptions were recorded on seals and contain only a few words. The Harappan script is not alphabetical but mainly pictographic, written in alternative lines of writing. A reverse with reverse letters it is called Bustopredon. Around 250 to 400 pictographs are found in the form of picture. Each letter stands for the some sound, idea, or object. These pictographs are the indigenous work of the Indus region and does not show any influence of the script of Western Asia. The greatest artistic creation of the Harappan culture are the seals. They are made of statite stone and often carry short inscriptions with the pictures of the one-horned animal, buffalo, the tiger, the rhinoceros, the goat, and the elephant. Seals and sealing were used for facilitate long distance communication. The seals were perhaps the used by merchants, traders to stamp their goods. The sealing also conveyed the identity of the sender. The most famous seal is the Pashupati seal of Harappan civilization from Mohenjo-daro. It is a seal with a figure seated cross-legged in the center with the animals around, an elephant and a tiger to the right of the figure, and rhino and a buffalo to the left. At his left appear two deer. Bread making. The Harappan were also expert in bread making. The variety of materials used to make breads, stones like chameleon, jasper, crystal, quartz, and uh, statite. Metals like copper, bronze, gold, shell, fence, and terracotta or burnt clay. Some breads were made of two or more stones cemented together. Some of stones with gold cans. The shapes were irregular, cylindrical, sugar barrel shaped, segmented. Some were decorated by insisting a painting, and some had designed etched onto them. Chanudaro was almost exclusively devoted to the craft production and including bread making, shell cutting, metalworking, seal making, and weight making. Specialized drill have been found at Chanudaro, Lothal, Dolavira, Nagadeswar, Balakot were specialized centers for making shell objects including bangles, ladies, and inlay. Religious practices of Indus Valley Civilization. The people of the civilization worshipped gods in the form of nature, such as trees, animals, human beings, but the gods were not placed in temples. In Harappa, numerous terracotta figures of women have been found, so it is evident that they probably worshipped Mother Goddess. In other figures, a man um, therefore, it is right that the Harappans looked upon the earth as a fertility goddess and worshipped her in the same manner as the Egyptians worshipped the Nile goddess Isis. The male deity is represented on a seal. This god has three horned heads. Depicted, he is identified as Pashupati, but the identification is doubtful because horned gods have also appears in the other ancient evidences. The male deity is represented on a seal. This god has three horned. The picture of the deity represented on a seal in the midst of branches of sacred tree people. In addition, there was the prevalence of phallus worship, which because it became connected with Shiva. In later time, numerous symbols of the phallus have been found in Harappa, which were possibly meant for worship. Animals were also worshipped in Harappa times. The most important of them is harmed bull. Findings of amulets in large number of indicates that the Harappan believed in ghosts and evil forces. The Atharva Veda contains many charms and spells, and the Orna recommended amulets that must wearing of diseases and evil forces. Political organization in Indus Valley Civilization. There is no clear evidence about the political organization of the Harappans. In contrast to Egypt and Mesopotamia, no temple or religious structure has been found at any Harappan sites. Therefore, the priests cannot said to be the rulers of Harappa. Perhaps the Harappan rulers were most concerned about commerce than the conquest. Harappans were possibly ruled by a class of merchants. The Harappans were peace-loving people since the findings from Harappan sites lack any type of weapons, places and palaces and archaeological records provide no immediate answer for a center of power or for a depiction of people in power. The large building found at Mohenjo-daro was labeled as a place by archaeologists. A stone statue was labeled and continues to be known as the Priest King. Some archaeologists had an opinion that Harappan society had no rulers and everybody enjoyed equal status. Others believed that there was no single ruler but several rulers. The third opinion is that there was a single state due to similarity in artifacts, the evidence for planned settlements and the standardized ratio of brick size. Decline of Indus Valley Civilization. By 1800 BC, most of the mature Harappan sites were abandoned simultaneously. There was an expansion of population into new settlements in Gujarat, Haryana and western Uttar Pradesh. In the few Harappan sites that continued to be occupied after 900 BC, there was a transformation of material culture marked by the disappearance of the distinctive artifacts, weight seals, special beds, writing, long distance trade and craft specialization also disappeared. Different theories states that causes of decline may be Aryan invention, climate change, deforestation, excessive flood, epidemic, shifting or drying up of rivers, ecological imbalance, etc. However, some of these causes do not explain the decline of the entire civilization. Aryan invention theory was propounded by Mortimer Wheeler. This theory was supported by the fact that some exotic tools pottery indicate the entry of new people. A few signs of violence appear in the last phase of Mohenjo-daro. Traces of new people appear in a cemetery belonging to late phase of However, there is no evidence of any mass-scale confrontation between the Harappa and the Aryans. Thus, the cause of the decline of the civilization have not been firmly established. Archaeologists now believe that the civilization did not come to an abrupt end but gradually declined. The ecological imbalance theory of Walter best explains the belief. Different opinions about decline of Indus Valley Civilization. The external aggression, Aryan invention, Stuart Pigott and Gordon Child, Emmer Sahani, inundation, Carr Kennedy, epidemic, Marshall and Riker, tectonic disbalance, Aurel Stenin and A.N. Ghosh, climatic change, Walter Fair Service, deforestation, scarcity of resources and ecological imbalance. Marshall, S.R. Mackey, it's a flood, E.G.F. Hales brought due to change in course of river Ghaggar. Post-urban phase of the Harappan culture. The post-urban phase of the Harappan culture is also known as the South Indus culture. This culture was earlier considered post-Harappan, but now it is more popularly known as late Harappa culture. The late Harappa culture was primarily Chalcolithic, in which tools of stones and copper are used. A number of sites of this culture have been found in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra and eastern India. Through most of these cultures belong to a period after that of the Harappan culture. They were much less advanced than the Harappan culture. They neither had any cities nor any system of writing. The Chalcolithic people in the later Harappan phase lived in villages and practiced agriculture, stock raising, hunting, fishing. During the later phase of the Harappan culture, some exotic tools and pottery indicate the slow percolation of new people in the Indus Basin. Contribution of Indus Valley Civilization. The Harappan culture has contributed a lot to the Indian culture, society, polity, economy. The Harappan culture did not end, rather its traits were adopted by the subsequent cultures over the period of time. Even today, a number of factors can be analyzed with traces their origin to the culture of Indus Valley Civilization. The Harappan civilization developed the first accurate system of standardized weight and measures. Harappan created sculpture, seals, pottery, jewelry for materials such as terracotta, metal and stone. Evidence shows Harappan participated in a vast maritime trade network extending from Central Asia to modern-day Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, Syria. The planning of cities on grid pattern was practiced by the Harappan people. The underground covered drainage system was also a unique feature which was not available in the contemporary civilization. The Harappan started the practice of multi-cropping system. They had efficient method of irrigation. Their contribution in culture cannot be ignored. The people of Harappa culture used to bury their dead. At present time, people have adopted the practice of worshipping Shiva. Phallus people, mother goddess and bull from Harappan culture. The worship of Shiva and the mother goddess and the practice of religion, bathing are example of continuing tradition of the Harappa culture. Agriculture was an important source of subsequent for the Harappans. They adopted a double cropping system. The Zebu bulls were probably domesticated by Harappans for agriculture. It is a large breed, often representative in their seals. Nageshwar, Balakot, ল্যাপিস লেজুলি হচ্ছে সর্তুঘাই স্টেটাইট, সাউথ রাজস্থান। Rouri chart, a fine-grained sedimentary rock, was found in the region of Rouri in Pakistan. It was used by the Harappans for making stone blades and tools. Rajasthan region is rich in copper deposit. The Harappan acquired copper mainly from the Khetri mines located here. The painted motifs generally noticed on the pottery are people leaves, fish scale designs, zigzag line, horizontal bands, and the geometrical motif with floral and fauna pattern. Polar gold finds of Karnataka and the river beds of Himalaya rivers might have supplied gold. The source of silver is believed to be Jowar mines of Rajasthan. The evidence of fire worship have been found some sites such as Kalibangan and Lothal. The Vedic age refers to the period when the Vedic Sanskrit texts were composed in India. It is the age of the Aryans, who are supposed to have migrated from Central Asia into the Indian subcontinent in several stages during 2000 to 5000 BC, advent of the Aryan in India. The term Aryan literally means the best of eminent. It is not evident that all the earliest Aryans belonged to one race, but their culture was of the same type. They were distinguished by their common language. They spoke the Indo-European language. Originally, the Aryans seem to have lived areas of southern Russia to Central Asia. They used horses, and their swiftness enabled them and some allied people to make successful advent in West Asia from about 2000 BC onwards. The Rig Veda gives information about the Aryans in India. The term Arya appeared 36 times in the text and generally indicates cultural community. The Rig Veda is the earliest text of the Indo-European languages and have many things in common with the Avesta, which is the oldest text in the Iranian language. The two texts use the same name for several gods, even for social classes. Also, the earliest specimen of the Indo-European language is found in the inscription of about 2200 BC from Iraq. Later, such specimens occur in Hittite inscription in Anatolia from the 19th to 17th century BC. Aryan names appear in Castite inscription of about 600 BC from Iraq, in Mitanni inscription of the 14th century BC from Syria. But so far, no such inscriptions have been found in India. The Aryans migrated to India in several stages. The earliest stage is represented by the Rigvedic people, who appeared in the subcontinent in about 500 BC. The Vedic literature gives us a clear idea of political, social, economic life of the Aryans and their conflict with the non-Aryans. The Vedic literature can be classified into 4 Vedas: Rig, Sham, Yajurveda, Atharva Veda, and the Vedangos, Brahmanos, Aryankas, and Upanishads. The Vedas are the large bodies of religious texts that are composed of Vedic Sanskrit and originated in ancient India. They form the oldest scriptures of Hinduism and the oldest layer of Sanskrit literature. The Vedas are said to have passed on through verbal transmission from one generation to the next. Therefore, they are also known as Shruti. Rig Veda. It is the oldest Veda and depicts the life of early Vedic people in India. It was compiled between 500 BC to 100 BC. Its text consists of 128 hymns or suktas, which are divided into 10 mandalas or books. Mandala 1 is primarily dedicated to Indra and Agni, Varuna, Surya, Mitra, Rudra, Vishnu have also been mentioned. Mandala 2 to 7 from the oldest part of the Rig Veda Samhita are called family books, as they are ascribed to particular families of rishis. Mandala 8, the hymns are depicted to various gods and have been mostly composed by the Kanvo clan. Mandala 9, all the hymns are dedicated entirely to Soma. Mandala 10 contains Nadi Shruti Sukta, praising the rivers, and it also contains Nasadiya Sukta, Purush Sukta. It contains hymns that are traditionally chanted during the marriage and death rules. The Upaveda of Rigveda is the Ayurveda. The Upaveda of Veda is Ayurveda. Samveda. The Samveda, or the Veda of chants, is the collection of verses drawn from the Rig Veda. These verses are provided with musical notation and are intended as an aid to performance of sacred song. It was composed between 1000 BC to 600 BC. Recessions or branches of the Samaveda are Kautuma, Ranaika and Joiminiya. The Upaveda of Samveda is the Gandharva Veda. Yajurveda, worship of ritual knowledge, was compiled between 1000 to 600 BC. It deals with the procedure for the performance of sacrifice. It is further divided into Shukla Yajurveda, Vajasenaya, White Yajurveda. It contains only the mantras. It contains the Madhyanina and Kanva recitations. Krishna Yajurveda, Black Yajurveda. It includes mantras as well as prose explanation and commentary. It contains Kathaka, Maitrani, Tairitiya and Kapistala recitations. The Upaveda of the Yajurveda is the Dhanurveda. Atharva Veda. Atharva Veda was also compiled between 1000 to 600 BC. It concerns with magic spells to ward off evil spirits or dangers. It is classified into 20 khandas or books with 711 hymns. It contains Saunaka and Paipalada recitations. The Upaveda of Atharva Veda is Silpa Veda. Brahmamanus. The Brahmamanus are the prose texts that explain the hymns in the Vedas. In addition to explaining the symbolism and meaning of the Samhita, Brahmana literature also provides scientific knowledge of the Vedic period, including observational astronomy, altar construction, and geometry. Each Veda has one or more of its Brahmas. Aitreya and Kaustiki Brahmanas were also allotted to the Rig Veda. Tandya and Jaminiya Brahmanas to Samveda, Taitriya and Satpatha Brahmanas to Yajurveda, Gopad Brahmanas to the Atharva Veda for detailing. Aranyakas. The Aranyakas are the philosophies written mainly for the forest dwelling hermits and their disciplines. They are appendices to Brahmamanus. They can be considered as the bridge between the Brahmamanus and talk about ritual sacrifice and the Upanishads that talk about knowledge and spirituality. The Upanishad contain philosophical ideas about the sacrifice, body and universe. There are 108 Upanishads. The concept of Atman, Brahman are majorly explained by Upanishads. The Nayaka Upanishad, one of the earliest Upanishad, contains a list of successive generations of teachers, students, and many of whom were designated by metronymics. Vedangos. Vedangos are the limbs of Vedas and are written for how to chant Vedas properly. There are 6 Vedangos as follows: Shiksha, which covers phonetic sounds; Nirukto, which covers etymology, origin of words; Chandas, which covers metrics, Vyankarans, which covers grammar, Jyotisha, which covers astrology, Kalpa, which covers rituals. Upavedas. There are 4 Upavedas: Ayurveda, Gandharva Veda, Shilpa Veda, and Dhanur Veda. Ayurveda is Veda about life, Gandharva Veda is Veda about music, Shilpa Veda is Veda about architecture, and Dhanu Veda is about archery and warfare. Some school of thoughts considered Arthashastra as 5th Upaveda. Sutra Sahitya. The period of 600 BC to 300 BC is known as period of Sutra, when various literature of Sutra were written. Sutra first appeared in the Vedic literature known as Brahmana and Aryanka. It was period of general upheaval of society, political and religious thought occurred in India. Kalpa Sutra. It contains sacrificial practice and systematic sutras. Sutra Shastras. It contains teaching of performance of the greatest sacrifice. Salva Sutra. It is related to geometry and mathematics. Guru Susta. It contains rule of domestic life. Dharma Shastra. It is various customs and social duties. Vedic Age 1500 to 1000 BC. The age of the Vedic period or Rig Vedic period corresponds with the date of the composition of the Rig Vedic hymns. The date has been fixed between 1500 BC to 1000 BC. Geographical knowledge of Vedic Age. The earliest Aryans lived in the geographical area covered by eastern Afghanistan, northwest frontier province Punjab, and parts of western Uttar Pradesh. Some rivers of Afghanistan, such as the river Kubha and the river Indus, its 5 branches are mentioned in the Rig Veda. The Sindhu is the river par excellence of the Aryan, and it is repeatedly mentioned in Rig Veda. Some of the hymns in Rig Veda are in the form of dialogues. This part of one such hymn, a dialogue between a sage named Vishwamitra and 2 rivers that were worshipped as goddess, Bias and Sutlej. Another river, Saraswati, is called Nadithma, or the best of the rivers in the Rig Veda. It is defined with the Ghaggar Hakra channel in Haryana and Rajasthan. Rig Vedic description shows it to be the Avestan river Harakwati and the Helmand river in South Afghanistan, from where the name Saraswati was transferred to India. The whole region in which the Aryans first settled in Indian subcontinent, called Land of the 7 Rivers. The word Samudra is mentioned in the Rig Veda, but it mainly denotes a collection of rivers. Rivers and their ancient names. Vitasta, Jhilam, Ashkini, Chinab, Purush Niravi, Vipasha, Bias, Satudri, Sutlej, Gomati, Gomar, Kubha, Kabul, Sadar, Nira, Gandak, Saraswati, Ghaggar. Vedic polity. It was nomadic system of government in which the military elements was strong. The administrative machinery of the Aryans in the early Vedic period worked with the tribal chief in the center. Because of his successful leadership in war, he was called Rajan. The king's post has become hereditary. The Rajan was kind of chief, and he did not exercise unlimited power, as he had to reckon with the tribal organization. The king was called the protector of his tribe. He protected its cattle, fought wars, and offered prayers to gods on its behalf. Several tribal or the clan-based assemblies, such as the Sabha Samiti, Vidyartha Gana, etc., are mentioned in the Rig Veda. They exercised deliberative military and religious functions. The two most important assemblies were the Shobha and the Samiti. The most important functionary seems to have been Purohita. The two priests who played a major part in the time of Rigveda are Vishishta and Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra composed the Gayatri Mantra to widen the Aryan world. The next important functionaries seem to be the Senam. The Rig Veda does not mention any officer for administrating justice, but it was not an ideal society. There was cases of theft and burglary, and especially the theft of cows. Spies were employed to keep an eye on such antisocial activities. The officer who enjoyed authority over a large pasture ground was called Vrajapati. He led heads of the families called Kulapas and the head of the fighting horse called Gramanis. And to battle in the beginning, the Gramani was just the head of small tribal fighting unit. Sanskrit texts use the term Kula to designate families and Janati for the larger network of kinfolk. The term Vamsha is used for lineage. The king did not maintain any regular or standing army, but in times of war he bring together a militia whose military functions were performed by different tribal groups called Vrata, Gana, Gramana and Sardha. Probably the chiefs received voluntary offering from the people called Bali. Vedic society, kingship was the basic of social structure. In the early Vedic society, a man who was identified by the clan to which he belonged, as he can be seen in the names of several Rig Vedic kings. People gave their primary locality to the tribe, which was called Jana. The term Jana occurs at about 275 places in the Rig Veda, and the term Anapada or territory is not used even once the people were attached to the tribe, since the kingdom was not yet established. Another important term which stands for the tribe in Rig Veda was Vis. It is mentioned 170 times in the text. It is evident that family in early Vedic phase were indicated by the term Griha. The Rig Veda shows some consciousness of the physical appearance of people. Varna was the term used for color, which provided the identity mark for the social order. Rig Veda mentions Arya and Dashavarna. People who composed the hymns described themselves as Aryans, called their opponents Das or Dashas. Rig Veda society was a patriarchal society. In the Rig Veda, no desire is expressed for daughters through the desire for children, and the cattle is repeated them in the hymns. The birth of a son was desired, and people prayed to the gods, especially for the brave sons to fight the wars. Position of women. Women were given opportunities for spiritual and intellectual developments. They could not attend assemblies and also used to offer sacrifices. The institution of marriage was established, although symbols of primitive practices survived. There were some instances of polygamy. The practice of levirate and widow remarriage is in the Rig Veda. There are no instances of child marriage. The marriageable age in Rig Veda seems to have been 16 to 17, although it is not mentioned specifically. Social divisions. The conquest of the indigenous inhabitants by the Aryans contributed most to the creation of social divisions in early Vedic age. The Dashas and the Dasos conquered the Aryan were treated as slaves, and Shudros Varno was the term used for color. It seems that the Aryans were fair and indigenous inhabitants were dark in complexion. The tribal chief and the priest acquired a larger share of the booty, and they naturally grew at the cost of their kinsmen, which created social inequalities in the tribe. Gradually, the tribal society was divided into three groups: warriors, priests, and people. The fourth division, the Shudras, appeared towards the end of the Rigvedic period. Slaves were given as gifts to the priest. They were mainly women slaves. Those who performed tasks such as handling corpses, dead animals are known as Chandalas, untouchable. In the age of the Rigveda, differentiation based on occupation had started, but this division was not very sharp. Unequal distribution of the spoils of war created social inequalities, and this helped the rise of priests, and princes at the cost of common tribal people. But since economy was mainly pastoral and not food producing, the scope for collecting regular tributes from the people was very limited. Tribal elements in society were stronger, and social division based on collection of taxes and accumulation of landed property was absent. The society was still tribal and largely egalitarian. Findings of Bhagwanpura. A site called Bhagwanpura has been excavated in Haryana, and in these cases painted grey ware have been found. Findings of Bhagwanpura ranges from 600 BC to 1000 BC, which was also roughly the period of the Rigveda. The 13-roomed mud house have been discovered at Bhagwanpura. Cattle bones have been found in good quantity in all the sites, and Bhagwanpura horse bones have also been found. Vedic economy. There are so many references to the cows and the bull in the Rigveda. The Rigveda Aryans can be called predominantly a pastoral people. Most of their war were fought for the sake of cows. The terms for war is Rigveda is Govisti, or search of cows. The cow seems to have been the most important form of wealth. Gifts made to priests usually consist of cows and women slaves. The Rigvedic people possessed better knowledge of agriculture. They know sowing, harvesting, and threshing, and also had knowledge about the different seasons. The Rigveda mentions artisans such as the carpenter, the chariot maker, weaver, leather worker, the potter, etc. Early Vedic age was rural in nature. Aryans did not live in cities. Vedic religious life. The Aryans personified natural forces and looked upon them as living beings for which they gave human and animal forms. The dominant mode of worshipping the god was through the recitation of prayers and offering of sacrifices. Offering of vegetables, barley, etc. were made to gods, but in Rigvedic times the process was not accompanied by any ritual. They did not worship gods for their spiritual uplift or for ending the miseries of existence. They asked for mainly for praja, pashu, food, wealth, and health, etc. Important of Vedic gods. The most important divinity in the Rigveda is Indra. Indra was called Purandara or breaker of forts. Indra played the role of warlord, leading the Aryan soldiers to victory against the demons. There are 250 hymns devoted to him in Rigveda. He is considered to be the rain god and thought to be responsible for causing rainfall. The second position is held by Agni. to whom 200 hinds are devoted. In Vedic times, Agni acted as a kind of intermediary between the gods and the people. The third important position is occupied by Varuna, who personified water. Varun was supposed to uphold the natural order, and whatever happened in the world was thought to be the reflection of his desire. Soma was considered to be the god of plants and intoxicating drink. Marut was considered as the god of storm. Some female divinities such as Aditi, Usha are also mentioned in Rig Veda, who represented the appearance of the dawn. But they were not predominant in the time of Rig Veda. In the patriarchal setup, the male gods were far more important than the female goddess. Aryan-Dashu conflict. The Dashus in the Rig Veda represent the original inhabitants of the country, and Arjor's chief who overpowered them were called Trodashu. The Aryans came into conflict with the indigenous inhabitants called the Dashus, etc. The Rig Veda mentioned the defeat of Shambhara by a chief called Divodasa, who belonged to the Bharat clan. The Aryan chief was soft towards the Dashas but strongly hostile to the Dashus. The term Dashu Shustra is repeatedly mentioned in the Rig Veda. According to tradition, the Aryan were divided into the 5 tribes called Panchajana, but there might have been other tribes also. The Aryan fought amongst themselves also. The famous battle of 10 kings, or the Dashorajan Yuddha, was fought between the Bharatas led by King Shudra and confederacy of other 10 tribes: Puru, Yadu, Turvasa, Anu, Ruhu, Alinam, Vaksa, Vasana, Shiva and Vishanim. The former 5 are said to be Aryan tribe, while the later 5 are said to be non-Aryan tribes. The Bharatas emerged victorious in the battle, which was fought on the banks of the river Pashuni, present Rovi. Purohita, the priest, also sometimes referred to as Rashtragopa. Senani, supreme commander of the army. Brajapati, officer in charge of the Pashtun land. Jivagriva, police officer. Spasas, Dutas, spies who also sometimes work as messengers. Gramni, head of the village. Kulapati, head of family. Madhamasi, mediator of dispute. Bhagdugha, revenue collector. Sangrihiti, treasurer. Mahisi, the chief queen. Suta, charioteer. Govikarna, keeper of games of forest. Palagala, messengers. Krista, Chamberlain. Akshapada, accountant. Stapati, chief judge. Takshakan, carpenter. So today I have till that I will study for 2 hours. Was unable to study for 2 hours, just studied for 1 hour. So bye bye. I will be right back in the next vlog very soon.